What's up, guys? Whether we were ready for it or not, winter is officially here, and it's time that we talk about how to dress accordingly so that you can get through the winter season and keep riding your bike. Before we get to that, let me take some of this off. All right, that's much better. So before we get started, I have to be honest with you guys. I haven't really been riding much over the last month, 2 months, and this kind of happens to me almost every single year. Winter comes around, the weather starts to get cold, it begins to rain more, it starts to snow, and I really lose pretty much all interest in riding. A big part of that, though, is because I'm not properly prepared. And when I don't ride, I end up getting into a bit of a funk and I get out of the groove and I don't feel like myself, and I also just find it really hard to get back onto the bike and get back out there again. So one of the biggest things I found for overcoming this is the gear that you have. And I've found that investing in the right gear can make all the difference in your level of comfort and your confidence in getting out there to fare the weather and take it on. Throughout today's video, I'm going to be tossing in clips of me on the trail while going through the different types of gear that you can wear when you're out riding in conditions such as this. As you saw in the intro, I was fully decked out in cold weather gear. However, that's not always the case for how we need to be dressed. It depends on the climate that you live in and what you experience for your winter months. And on top of that, it varies for everyone in how they feel based on the current outdoor temperature. So the key here is to make sure that you layer accordingly. And then on top of that, in the winter months, you usually have to be carrying multiple layers of clothing with you and taking them off and putting them on as needed, especially while you're climbing and descending. With that in mind, I like to start with my regular riding jersey, and then I like to have a nice thin base layer similar to the one that you see here. This is for when it's not raining, and maybe if I'm headed up a climb, it's just something to kind of keep the wind off of my skin directly. It breathes really well, so I don't get too hot, I don't sweat like crazy, and it's really comfortable and easy to throw something over the top of because it's so thin and light. In addition to my lightweight, thin sweater, when things get especially cold, that's when I'll bust out the base layers. And for that, I fully rely on Under Armour. I really love Under Armour and their base layer products. It's an awesome form-fitting compression type polyester material that keeps me super warm, but then in addition to that, it also wicks all the moisture off of my body. So as you can see, they've got the top that keeps my torso warm, and then in addition to that, they also make a base layer pant that covers the whole bottom half of the body, and these are fantastic for keeping you warm. However, they keep you very warm. So I only bust these out when temps are well below freezing, especially for a cardio activity like cycling. Your heart rate is up, thus your body temperature also stays higher and you don't get quite as cold. The biggest thing is just protecting yourself from the wind in order to stay warm. And with the thought of protecting yourself from the wind, there's also the trusty Balaclava. Masks, whatever you want to call it. This one in particular I really like. It's a full headwear, but it's got a couple different configurations that you can wear it in. To protect myself from the wind, I can wear it around my neck just like this. As the temperature drops or the wind increases, I can put it up over my face like such, get that additional coverage on my cheeks and nose. And then if the temperatures really drop and it starts to get really cold, I can even put it up over the top of my head, tuck it down over the front and get full coverage over my head, and my helmet can still slide right over the top, perfectly like so that way I can continue on with my ride. Of course, it doesn't take long before this becomes way too hot for cycling, so it's really rare that you'll ever see me wearing it in full coverage like that. Oftentimes, I'll just keep this with me just in case I need it. And after that, if the temperature is starting to drop or if it's raining and snowing, I need an exterior shell to keep me nice and dry, something that's waterproof and thicker, keeps me warm, and that's where my outer shell jacket comes into play that I use during ski season. This works out great for mountain biking as well because you can see here in the armpit that it has a zipper that I can actually open up in order to get more airflow in through my armpits, so it can cool down my core, especially when I'm putting out any work, like when I'm climbing. And then when I'm descending, I can zip that back up, bundle up, and get ready to head down the trail. Now that the top layers are covered, when it comes to down below, I'll wear my riding shorts and knee pads. That usually keeps me pretty warm, but as the temps start to approach freezing or below freezing, I toss on some pants. Pretty much anything works. My legs don't really get too cold usually, but when it's raining or snowing, I gotta bust out something that's heavier duty. So in that case, I rely on my lightweight snow pants. There's not a whole lot of insulation in them, and they do a great job, of course, at keeping the snow out. And just like the jacket, they also have vents in the sides right here, so I can get some additional airflow to my legs and then close them back up when it's time to hit the downhill. Now that the core of our body is covered, there's the extremities, our hands and our feet. And this is something that I always struggled with. My hands and my feet freeze in the wintertime when I'm skiing. I've always had a hard time keeping them warm. And then subsequently, when I'm riding, my toes always freeze. As you all know, that I've got bright blue Shimano ME5 shoes that I wear in the summertime. And these shoes are fantastic. I really like them a lot. They have these amazing holes here for breathability, and so they dry out super fast. However, these holes also provide great ventilation, which means in the colder temps, even well above freezing, my feet get so cold. It turns out there's a solution for that, and that solution is shoe covers. They're not super popular in mountain biking. A ton of people like to look into the really expensive winter riding shoes that you can buy, like the Lakes, and I don't know if you've ever checked those out. They can cost upwards of like $300–400. It's outrageous how expensive somebody might charge for shoes, and in my experience thus far, these shoe covers, they do a fantastic job. They're super easy to install. They just have this strap here on the back and then an inlet for you to slide your foot into. And then it's got the toe piece, and that just slides right over the top of your toe. Not gonna lie, this is a lot easier to do when it's on your foot. And voila, the shoe cover has been installed, and as far as I can tell, it's pretty much a Lake shoe. It may not fit the bill perfectly, but here's the real kicker. This boot cover only costs 25 bucks, so that's one heck of a deal in my book, and I don't have to have two pairs of shoes laying around all the time just for riding. One last thing, here on the bottom, you can see that there's still access to the cleat, and there's this little strap that keeps the shoe cover nice and tight and secure in place. It also has an elastic band that goes around the bottom to hold it all together, and I was kind of worried about how this top portion would feel on my ankle while riding, but to be honest, I don't notice it at all. The cuff also fits around any pants that I've worn, as well as my snow pants. The inner liner of my snow pants can fit inside, and then the outer liner goes over the top, which does a great job at keeping snow out from the inside of my shoe. Moving on from the feet, we've got the hands. And when things get real cold, I like to bust out these heavy-duty winter gloves. As you can see, they're a high vis color, and that's because they're actually my motorcycle gloves that I would wear when things were getting real cold out on the bike. So I love these because it's a nice waterproof material, and the waterproof helps, of course, with keeping out the moisture, but also acts as a wind barrier. The one downside, however, is that they're pretty big. As you can see, these are thick gloves. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll wear these whenever I'm traversing across flatter terrain, easier single track, anything that's not requiring me to use really specific hand movements. And then once I arrive at the start of any technical terrain or longer downhills, I'll pop these off and I'll toss on my normal riding gloves, because these gloves provide us with the dexterity that we need in order to modulate those brakes and stay in control. Then once I get to the bottom, I pop these gloves off, toss back on the nice warm gloves. Usually by that point my hands are feeling pretty chilled, but these gloves are warm enough and have enough insulation that it warms right back up, and I'm good to go to keep enjoying my day out on the bike. Now you might be asking, that's great, we've got all these gloves and all these different layers to keep ourselves warm, but where the heck are we supposed to store that when we're out on the bike? Well, if you know me, you know that I really don't like to ride with a pack, especially in the summertime. They can just get so hot. However, in the winter, when it's cooler, we don't have that problem nearly as much. Sometimes the pack can actually help to keep you a little bit warmer. So in the wintertime, I'll tend to bust out my Osprey Raptor 14, and this pack can pretty much fit everything I need perfectly, and it's something I love about it. So it's got this awesome external pocket right here, so whenever I've got my big gloves or anything like that, I can just toss them inside here. just like so, and I can quickly retrieve them whenever I need and be back to riding in just a moment. Packs like these can really come in handy, especially when you're on a longer ride and the temperature's changing throughout the day, or if you're just doing really big climbs and really big descents. You got to dress light for the way up and then dress a bit heavier for the way back down. So we've now covered the full spectrum. You know exactly the types of gear that you can use in order to keep yourself warm, whether it be in the later fall months, early winter, and then even in the full-on snow. All these different types of gear will keep you warm and dry, and that is key to having an enjoyable time while you're out on the bike. I know for me, now that I've been getting out there and riding again, even given the cold, wintry conditions, I just feel so much better. Whenever I get out there and ride, it just helps me feel like I'm on my game. It keeps me sharp, it keeps me focused, and that helps so much, whether it be at work or even just trying to do those projects around the house that I haven't been able to seem to get around to. Anytime I'm riding, I just feel like I'm really on top of things, and it makes me feel so great. So I hope this video will help encourage you and increase your confidence so that you too can get out there and enjoy riding in the winter weather. It's really not that bad, especially when you dress accordingly, and it can help you stay on top of your game and overall just have a blast. Riding in the snow is so much fun. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tell me where to ride next.